Firstly, I'd like to say that this is going to be audio only, so whatever visual is on screen right now is the visual that's going to be on screen throughout. Secondly, I want to state that this is a live-ish rant, so I'm sorry if I swear. It is unscripted, and there's going to be very little editing, so you will be able to read my lips through every hell goddamn and shit. Best little whorehouse in Texas humor there. Really sure the kids will get that one. But no, I am here because there needs to be a dialogue, and honestly, no one wants to say it. The the comic community right now is in a time of civil unrest. It is in the middle of 14 different civil wars. It is the Congolese territorial war right now. What I mean by that is that you have so many different factions, and everyone wants to be right. And everyone, in their head, in their own mind, is right. Because no one, outside of trolls, which, yes, there are a shit ton of shitposting trolls involved in generally just stirring the pot. But the majority of people, when they say I disagree, or even if they go onto a giant rant about how bullshit your statement is, they feel they are in the right. And personal belief will always trump what anyone says. So I know most of the people thinking about it are going to go, fuck, he's going to talk about my group in this, isn't he? Probably. Because originally this started out as 3 open letters. First to the business side of the comic book community. Second to the creative side, like the creators. And then it was supposed to be a big heartfelt thing to the fans because, fuck. Wow, I think I've allotted my PG-13 rating anyways, with at least half those swears. But honestly, the business side won't listen because right now it is all about, for the business side, it is about getting that cash. They need the insta sales from making grandiose statements. They need the insta sales from feeding into people's personal assumptions and tastes and everything like that. So they're not going to change. Creators, while there are some very good creators who interact with fans who really show a passion for the fact that they get to be, comic writers, that it would be unfair to lump them in with people who also like stirring the shit to get their stuff to sell. Because on a creative level, if you're the creator who just, who wrote the thing that just sold 200,000 copies in pre-orders alone, you're guaranteed another job. And as long as you toe the company line, or as long as you get the sales, generally you're A-okay. And to me, that's a bullshit thing for any creator, but I might name drop later, I might not. And then thirdly, the fans, there's no one way to say, without sounding like an asshole, which I guarantee everyone will think I'm an asshole by the end of this. But there's no one thing to say to the fan base, to the fandom of comics, to try and get them to understand. Because our biggest problem right now is, frankly, everyone wants to be a name. I know this sounds terrible because I do push a lot of other people that I actually really like their content for, be it creator, writer, whatever, or podcaster, video maker online, because they generally don't go extreme to one end or the other. And I don't mean that I mean that they treat comics as comics. They don't treat it as a stepping stone for something else, which is something that a lot of people who try and be the loudest voice in fandoms really do have a problem with. So I decided that, fuck it, let's make it a video instead of an open letter. Let's actually talk about this, because frankly, I know I'm going to get people going, you don't know what you're talking about. I know this is going to get 1,000 fucking thumbs down because I'm going to name drop Comicsgate. I'm going to name drop the anti-Comicsgate people. I'm probably going to bring up the fact that Nick Spencer online and Jeremy Whitley online, at least when I interacted with them. This was a few years ago, and by me interacting, I mean seeing how they interacted with other people, were jackasses and really did play up the strengths to get their books to sell. Now, of course, Jeremy Whitley's Unstoppable Wasp isn't bad, and Princeless has its moments, and Nick Spencer, when he writes indie comics, is actually really good. But ultimately, that is where we're at. Is that you have so many assholes in the fandom that, yeah, some writers will come out and be equally assholish, and then it's okay because it's going to get them name recognition from the people who would buy their mediocre Secret Empire book. Yes, it is mediocre. I don't care what people feel politically. However, it's because of that the fans, the factions, will never actually see what they're doing is wrong. Okay? Let's talk about Comicsgate. This is the biggest thing that everyone keeps asking me to talk about. In theory, in concept, in what everyone likes saying, oh, this is what Comicsgate stands for, that are in the Comicsgate community, they're not wrong. And there's and there's half of my subs gone. Okay, they're not wrong in that, yes, there is gatekeeping from creators or for creators. Because you do have, but it isn't the companies, it isn't them being assholes. Let me rephrase. It isn't gatekeeping in that Marvel won't hire what's his tits or what's his name, whatever the hell, the C&D Comics and Diversity. Yeah, I'm still going to call you that. They won't hire him because he's a Republican or he's a rebel or he's a conservative. He won't toe that company line. He would if he hired him. That's the secret that he probably won't ever tell anyone, is that the second that Marvel ever handed him a contract, he would fucking get on his knees and suck until I don't even want to finish that one. Okay? Because that's his dream. That's what he's stirred up his audience about. It's why anytime someone talks about Comicsgate, they like saying, oh, it's not a movement. It is. They like saying that, oh, hey, we're just punching back because they're punching the little guy. No. Your guy, your main guy, who keeps fucking getting your money because he keeps stirring your shit up, getting your views, maybe the Patreon, actually more than likely the Patreon, he has enough money to indie publish his comic. Jawbreakers, you know that thing that everyone has consistently turned around and said, so when's it coming out? Oh, but it was blocked by Marvel. Yes, that was it. It wasn't the fact that it got him money regardless of actually needing to do anything. In fact, if you ask around, it's already fucking done. It's just not out. And why is that? Is it because they're blocking him? Let's see. Actually, I'm just going to hop onto the internet right now. Oh, let's see. The Indiegogo is at 4,000. Oh, sorry. It's closed, and this was from May 10th, 2018. Jawbreakers, Lost Souls, $400,913. Okay. Let's see. Can't buy it online. Oh, Lost Souls got a remastered one. In closed, of course. So that was 56,000. So what we're seeing right here is a shit ton of fuck. Really? No, I'm sorry. Apparently it did come out. Let's see. Bounding into comics. Where did we finally get a look at a book that broke the internet? We decided to really like this. So in short, okay. So apparently it did come out in March. I just can't find anywhere to actually buy it online, despite the fact that he got 400,000, over $400,000 to do this. And yet he's supposed to be the underdog here. Marvel doesn't like me. It doesn't matter. You just got $500,000. And that's remastered? Remastered for what? And that was an extra 50. Okay? That is the perfect example of how stirring the fans up, trying to become the cult leader, got him cash, got him paid. Fucking hell of a paid. Probably more than any writer at Marvel right now, I'd argue. I'd argue it depending on how you do it, because guess what? I'm fairly certain that $500,000 doesn't even go to Hollywood writers at this point. But it's okay because he's the underdog, right? Because Renfremus continues to point out how stupid he is, and you get so many other people bad-mouthing him. Fine, let's talk about that. The ComicSins community needs people like Renfremus and Gail Simone and all the other writers who will interact. Because without you being assholes to them and then them being assholes back, or this battle, no one would know what the fuck ComicSins was. In fact, I will guarantee that 95% of the people who've ever heard of ComicSins only heard about it because of a reply from Gail, or because Renfremus shares every fucking thing they do, which is hilarious in its own right. Okay? Most of the people, most comic fans, comic readers, only know of them via asshole-ish behavior. And then you bring it up, instead of decrying it, as in all people should, because when your side does something bad, you need to comment on that. You need to state, that was an asshole, not someone like me, who is a level-headed person who will explain, here is the criticisms I have with your book. But you don't. You side with the people you side with the same as they do. The us versus them is the biggest problem in comics right now. It's the biggest problem in the world right now. But I am a comics person, so we're only going to talk about comics. Possibly other internet stuff. Because without that us versus them, would people really have bought Black? Let's go with a semi-controversial choice. Probably. Because it's actually an interesting premise. Because if people were true, and honestly, I'm actually really glad about this, the majority of people who shared about Black, the comic Black, which I do recommend strongly, were people who went, wow, this is an interesting premise. It wasn't, yay, Black. Yeah, it's got black people in it. It's got black leads, black X-Men, and that's what we got to do. I don't know why I turned him into like a Bernie Mac hybrid, but either way, you didn't have all these different people turning around and going, buy it because of diversity. Buy it because them, the evil them, don't want you to read it. Which is something that I will always hate anyone who does that. Because anyone who's trying to tell you not to read something will generally say, don't read it. Rather than the people who go, you need to buy this because of them. Because of how you feel right now, you need to knee-jerk buy this right now. And that is the marketing that Marvel, for a long time, and I will say they've actually cooled it down a lot recently. I assume that it was because once the Disney buyout happened, they had to make X amount of money. They needed pretty much to make back what they put in within a certain time period. So that's why marketing stepped in and did what they did in the 90s, which was, well, basically screw the context, screw the rules, we need your money. And that's another reason I really dislike Marvel as a company, but we're not going to get into that. Well, we might, because Marvel feeds into that, the us versus them. Was Black Panther the one, the one that really sold super well, and then literally that sold 250,000 copies to distributors, not to individuals, mind you? Really that good? Well, no, about 15 to 20,000 people bought a second issue. It was literally that mediocre. So instead, it didn't matter because they had another one already in the process of being pushed. It's the same reason many people after my Wins and Sins video of Daughters of the Dragon went, "Holy crap, one of these came out?" Well, yeah, that's actually because Marvel doesn't know how to actually talk about or push their online stuff, despite the fact that Jed McKay has been doing great over there. And I think it was Kelly Thompson did that Jessica Jones book that was, again, also really good. But they don't market for the consumer. You can tell it because of something that DC is actually doing. Now, you can argue that DC's marketing is weaker than Marvel, and it is. But that's because DC is still going at it traditionally. Here's our content, let's keep readers this way. Now, you can argue that that can change, and it does. But it also means that anything that Marvel does will always be in flux. It's not about who's going to buy the fourth issue of a book. It's about who's going to buy that number one for instant sales. Because at that point, it's actually why I had to stop doing first issues. They were literally pumping out 10 first issues weekly. I might be hyperbolating there a little bit, but they were pushing a lot. Very fast, solely on the grounds of needing that quick buy, because collectors, you will always see a huge amount of number one issues. You will see a huge amount of buys in number one issues, and then yes, it will drop to hopefully a steady number so you know who you're pulling in. That generally doesn't happen because a lot of the time the meat is very, very slim. Anyways, back to the us versus them. Oh no, sorry. First, DC is showing that they actually are thinking about the consumer by allowing for companies, for local comic stores, local retailers, that's the word I'm thinking of, to return unsold copies of physical copies for actual refunds. As in, hey, everyone buys, a billion copies of a book. Wow, only 100,000 sell. Hey, DC can take them back for you. Why? Well, you can argue the multitudes of things, but ultimately it comes down to the fact that they want to have the consumer base. They want to have the local. They want to have. They want the local comic store to survive until next year. We saw a lot, and I truly mean a lot, to the point where people have commented or have noted, articles have been made about how quickly the local comic shop boom bubble is collapsing again. Because, and you can argue that, well, that's because just because people were talking about comics and buying comics does not mean that they were buying them physically. They were buying them digitally. They were, ordering them on Amazon, eBay, whatever. And that's very true. But when your content can't bring people in, then Marketing 101 states you pull from the other side. And since politics, especially over the past 4 years, have been the easiest, truly the easiest thing to use to get people onto your side and give you money, that's what they did. Now, does that mean that all the books that were under this were bad? No. Miss Marvel, my very first issues, was okay. I mean, it wasn't as good as Static Shock. It didn't have any of the social commentary of Static Shock. It was a fun book that had a little sliver of what could have grown into something. The fact that Ms. Marvel as a character didn't actually change or grow as a character in at least 3 years, that's what really hurt me with the character. But that is the perfect example of how people really gravitated towards that book, because it was a fun read. And then, yes, you had people turn around and go, oh, and yes, C&D actually, because it was the first time I was compared with him after I did my At the End of the Day, where I brought up that Marvel doesn't care about your political beliefs or any beliefs you have other than, please give me money. Because if you don't give me money, then they win. And the us versus them doesn't just end there. I know I just spent, 10 minutes talking about, or 15, just on this group, but we have so many different factions that are butting heads because of how quickly the nerd community rose up, but on how few truly understood what the nerd community was. It was already frameworked in. I mean, we have the old generation of readers. We have people who've been reading, since the 90s, since the 80s, since the 90s, who are now dealing with people who maybe saw Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and now they think they know everything. Because ultimately, you will always have people gatekeeping on, oh, do you know about Miles's uncle, or do you know who Miles dated from the X-Men? Kind of stuff like that. Oh, you don't know that he was dating Kitty Pryde for a little bit. So you're not one of us. And it's the us versus them that tribalism is what's killing comics right now. Comic communities as a whole. Think about how easy it'd be for literally every person who talks about comics to be positive. And I don't mean positive like, wow, Cry for Justice, while it was shit, could have actually been some good things. There were positives in One More Day. Yes, I know I wrote an article about how One More Day did actually kind of help the Spider-Man brand, despite how it kind of killed the book. But let's not get into that. What I mean is, you have a lot of people online, like Let's Talk, like people in the Let's Talk community. I actually love following these because most accounts are actually fairly positive. They will try and go, hey, did you know that, Doctor Strange actually had this blue costume in the 60s? Hey, do you know that, or wow, I'm so excited, Storm's getting her own comic, rather than, oh, hey, fuck this person because they didn't like Storm, or hey, no one should buy this book because it's a terrible book. Although you will see a lot of people turn around and go, this is what I stan. And by the way, never ever use stan in a positive light. Nerds, seriously. I see this so much and it's like, y'all motherfuckers need to listen to that song to realize that we are already a toxic community. So calling yourself a stan of someone means that you're basically willing to kill your significant other if a comic writer does not say, hey, thanks for hey, thanks for the positive feedback on my book, or even just any interaction whatsoever. It's not a good thing. Use it in a negative, sure, go for it. Just don't call yourself a stan. That's like turning around and going, yeah, I'm a Nazi. I'm a Nazi for cake. I don't know. It sounded funnier in my head. Hopefully you chuckled. So the point of that is, okay, we've talked about the older generation versus the new, more or less. Because the older generation, you've really got you've got three generations going. The people who've been around long enough to realize that, my God, the comic companies are shit, so we need to just read through what we like and what we can. And then you have the middle of the road people. I want to say these are the people who started reading in 2000 to 2010. Not quite. Basically, they had no digital, but they switched over from physical to being able to, read digital stuff. It's generally a weird way. The 2000s were very weird in comics. And I mean that on a community level as well as company wide. It was just, and I will probably do a video on that one. But the point is then you have these three separate things, like the new people who come in. They are so used to making a fan account. Okay, let's have this solely talk about this character, which comes with a lot of negative that can be directed towards that character. I know Let's Talk Harley Quinn gets a lot of people turn around and just, anytime she shares a thing, turning around and going, fucking Harley fans, they're fucking terrible. It's so annoying. Harley's a bad character. That it's like, how are we as a community supposed to react to that negativity? are we supposed to, and what we should do would be to turn around, turn the other cheek, and everything like that. But will we? No, we're going to be pissed about it. It's nerddom 101. It's liking anything 101 and getting shamed for it. No, it isn't to the like extreme of slut shaming, but at the same time, yeah, there is the oh my god, you've read this, you have how many comic long boxes? Oh my god, you're such a nerd. Or oh my god, I can't believe you actually liked Identity Crisis. That is the worst book. I know cuz like a comic reviewer told me so. And then it turns into this big thing because when confronted only with negativity or majority negativity, 100 positive comments, 100 hearts, little likes on Twitter, little thumbs ups on Facebook, 100 of those does not make up for that one person who's just going to say fuck you and fuck everything you believe in. And that's going to cause negative emotions, and that's going to cause outbursts. And then that person gets jaded, they shut off their account, and then we lose another person who's going to solely talk about not any of the positives, but focus on the negatives. And that's where generally all hate for nerds comes from. Let's be honest here. As a community, from the 60s to the 90s even to the 2000s, to some depending on which part of the 2000s, nerds, comic readers were seen as infantile and childish and delinquents. It's why I brought up it's why Seduction of the Innocent was such a hard hit for everyone, because it made it a social faux pas to play it, to read it, which you can see as been the video gaming thing. But has anyone really turned around? And yes, you can go, well, there was that 1800s thing that everyone talks about, or once the printing press, I think 15th century, whatever. Point is, oh man, everyone's reading books. That's so old hat, And yes, there will always be negative pushback towards a majority of anything. There's the pineapple on pizza debate. Yes, pineapple on pizza can be good. What you do is you also get ham on it. You don't get any fucking tomato sauce, because then you have a nice sweet pizza. It's still savory because you got the ham. It's a great pizza. However, I know a billion people who will be pissed off at me for stating that more than anything else I've stated in this goddamn video. And guess what? That's going to cause a negative feeling. Because the more assholeish you are to the opposition of your idea, the more they see you in that negative light. It is the fundamental thing. You justify they justify your beliefs of how they act. And I mean that on every side, literally. I mean that on every us versus them. Is if you're an asshole to the enemy, your enemy will be validated in thinking that you're in the wrong because you're an asshole to them. And now you can go, well, I wasn't the asshole first, and that's okay. You don't have to be the asshole first. You don't have to be the asshole at all. Because stooping down to them, that does not make you better than them. That makes you just as weak and fallible as them. They're acting in what they feel is their best interest, in what they feel is right. Outside, again, of trolling shit stirrers, which there are fundamentally a billion more than any actual members of any actual radical faction. Okay. The reason that this truly matters is because we lose the one major thing. We lose the thing that using comics as ammunition actually could do. Comics should matter as the form of expression and the medium they are. But because of people needing to do clickbait articles, because of people needing to go, here, push this, because of everyone using comics for their own goals, for their own gains, for their own validation, we lose that comics are important. And as a medium, we need to be more respected. Let's be honest. Any comic fan should understand that, yeah, comics are not a respected medium. Everyone who reads comics, or everyone who sees the movies, the general audiences, don't want to get into comics, particularly because every article that seems to come out is either, hey, here's why this book from Marvel is awesome. Also, here is link to buy book. It no trap. I don't know why. I mean, I just got a review copy. I'm not sure why they did that. Whereas you have people like Comic Comic Frontline, Comic Pop, Comic Storian, The Last Angry Geek, literally everyone in my top 5 YouTubers, as well as an amazing thing I keep being tagged in from Devin Baca on Twitter, where there's a shit ton of people that are amazing to follow who do need the support, who aren't just randomly clickbaiting every 5 seconds, who keep pushing comics in a positive light. Because, yes, comics should be important. Comics can be about escapism. Comics should have representation. But ultimately, as a whole, very few people care about comics enough for it to have the same light that can make literature good, that has made literature on this giant pedestal, that has made the movie industry amazing, and then subsequently kind of bad. But the point is that because there was such a universal togetherness, films were able to break out of, well, the mold they were put in. Gaming has now become far more respected, both as an esport as well as a storytelling method, than comics probably will ever be now. Part of that is because the price has now gone to like, $3.99, which is insane for something that ultimately is 24 pages and several of them are ads. So, you're paying like 50 cents a minute or 50 cents a page. Actually, I don't want to do the math. Point is you're paying a shit. Actually, you're almost paying, let's see, 20 pages. Let's say 4 of them are ads. 20 pages, even at $1 a pop, that'd be $20, wouldn't it? No, that'd be. Point is yeah. So 25 cents a page. Let's make it kind of easy. Say they're $4. 4 divided by 20 would be 5. Wow. Anyways, point is that they cost a lot. They do. But that's because the numbers are so low. And you can argue about everything. It's not my side. I try and be positive. Well, no. And there's actually several people that I will definitely say are amazing when it comes to handling the people who come at them with a negative attitude. Either speak calmly to them, don't speak to them at all. And I know people go, oh, you mean they should block them or mute them? Well, yeah, if you're an asshole and you get blocked, that's on you. That's not on the person who blocked you for being an asshole. Now, do I believe that people should do that like mass block thing? The ghost blocking, I haven't even talked to you, why did you block me? No, I don't believe in that at all. Because, honestly, you don't know how a person is going to act with you until you've heard them, until you've interacted with them. And, frankly, some writers, some creators are honestly really bad at this. But, ultimately, comics will never reach the point where we can all be a happy fucking like Fonzie. We can't be cool like Fonzie because we as fans we as fans let the market dictate who we are. I know that sounds bad because everyone's going to go, I am not a number, I am a man or a person. And it's not them it's not them hurting you with you intentionally being blind. It's you seeing a reflection of what your beliefs are and what your validation needs. So you see, they talk about this, oh man, they're fighting, I'm gonna say the word I don't want to. It's the retarded cousin of Gamergate. That is what Comicsgate is, and that is what our biggest problem right now is. Not Comicsgate the group. It is the idea that the person who says, this person is all about hating women. Okay, what do they gain from telling you that? They gain you. You're not against women. You like black people. You might have a black friend. So anytime someone goes, "Wow, this is racist," they they don't want you reading this book. Motor Crush didn't sell because it had a black female lead, or because the studio who sold it, no one wanted to put into it. The fact that literally someone went, "No one bought this because of a black woman lead." Not the fact that it was an untrusted team. It really didn't have the market to sell, and it came out when other books were pushing the same thing, meant that no, it didn't have the thing because the sales department, the sales for comics, isn't direct to people outside of digital or literally being on a direct sales list. It goes to retailers. Retailers buy on spec. As in, they speculate to go, okay, I'm fairly certain with how much Black Panther is being pushed, we will buy 50 copies. Then Diamond Publishing turns around and goes, well, if you buy 100, you actually technically, you get a break in sales, right? Okay, we'll buy 100. Great. Now, the sales from Marvel and Diamond state, wow, so many people have bought this. It is 200,000 copies sold. 2 retailers. Does that mean that 5 will get bought? Maybe. But that is where indie creators suck. That is where to be an indie creator is a negative thing. Because retailers aren't going to want to buy an unproven product. As bad as that is. Now, a name like Pat Shand right now has been doing amazing things on Kickstarter. That he has a big enough name that he will get people to give him money for a copy of their book. It is simple. It is really, truly that simple. Going, oh my god, retailers aren't buying my book is no longer a viable option to gain sympathy from the masses. Or it shouldn't be. Because there are a billion different ways for your indie book to get out there. Even as a Comixology original submission, you will get, you'll get spec buys alone. Does that mean that, I don't know Comixology, how much of a cut they take, but the point is, you get these spec things. However, because right now, so many people are telling us about the emotions we need to have. And I don't mean that in a negative. If someone says something stupid, yes, call them out for it. And I know several people will probably say I'm being stupid by not outright stating that. I'll state it. Everyone is being used. I don't want to say everyone, because there will be people who go, well, it's not me. Because no one wants to be the person who goes, well, yeah, you only hate this person's boyfriend because she only tells you all about the negative stuff because, well, she wants attention. And no one wants to be the guy to turn around and go, dude, she's cheating on you. Because ultimately, we don't like the confrontation. And no one wants to turn around and be that ostracized person. Right now, as a society, which is hilarious, we fear being scorned more than we ever did before social media. Because now it's so much easier to get scorned. It used to be, oh, hey, we got bullied in school. I got bullied because I was fat, because I was smarter than people, because I had a southern accent for a little bit. And a southern plus New York accent does not sound right. I actually had I was two, or I was in second grade, so they thought I was from Transylvania because of it. I don't know. The point is that yes, I know this is 40 minutes and no one has made it to this point. And I understand that. It's okay. Because, frankly, to me, this is me while I am talking to you, and I have been using, it's almost been it's been a second person podcast. This in perspective. It's second person perspective. Anyways, the point is that we as a group, as a community, as everything needs to come together. And this is never going to happen. I'm not even going to try and be Gandhi on this. It's never going to happen because you will always have someone who needs to make money. And you will always have someone who goes, I want recognition. And you will always have someone who goes, hey, these people are currently feeling like they're being underrepresented. Let's go after them. Let's get their money. And I don't mean that as in like all creators are bad. All indie creators want is to, bullshit their way into popular culture. But that is how we all feel. That is how many people feel that it is. And that's why, God help me, Comicsgate as a principle, as the concept that we need to stop turning social issues into a sales gimmick rather than something that could actually help, because ultimately that's the issue. I feel that the majority of them are not bad people. They have an ideology. They feel that this is what's happening in the industry. And yes, it is filtered through one guy who tells them this is what's going on right now, that it turns into negatives. However, the same people who are going, oh my God, can you believe what these guys are saying, are the same ones who are getting followers and who are getting clout and who are getting people. They're using this negative as a means to gain power. And now you can go, oh, how much power is truly in Twitter? Think about it. Think about how much money just one review of Civil War did. Civil War 2, let's go with IGN and CBR gave it 7, 8 really good scores. It wasn't. Now, how much do you think those articles made compared to a negative one? Compared to, here's why you should worry about Suicide Squad. Here's why you should worry about other nerds. The divide and conquer has always been a big thing. And anyone who's had any counter-terrorist training, or at least any form of, hell, at this point, watch The Simpsons enough. I think they've had like 3 cults on there. It is easy to brainwash without needing to actually brainwash. What I mean by that is, hey, this person is bad. They have said something I don't like. Therefore, they must be wrong about everything. It's really easy to do. It's what we've been doing. It's what this generation is best at. And I don't even mean this in a millennials versus, Generation Me versus Generation X versus baby boomers. I mean this in, when I have, the weirdest thing I ever did, or the weirdest thing that ever felt, weird to me, was running camera on a Pirates Weekend thing that I do during summer. And one of the kids on the monkey bars behind me was talking about how many followers they had. They had over 1,000 on Twitter. This is like a 4 or 5-year-old. And the other person, oh, that's nothing. I've got, X amount on my YouTube channel because they've been streaming videos. It's like, we've ultimately now started to officially gauge people's importance by who listens to them. And it's fucking weird. Yes, I know I sound like the old guy bitching right now, but that is what happens. That is what we have. It is what the blue check marks really mean on Twitter. It means, hey, they have enough people to be important. And it's ultimately this weird Mobius thing that will always continue to feed into itself. Because we unblue check marked people, we as humans, we as hell, we as a generation who have been raised and taught a very specific way, will always want to side with the underdog. We will always want to side with the people who we feel are in the wrong, or we will side against the people we feel in the wrong. So when someone goes, hey, this person's racist, we will all jump on board and go, that's not cool, racism is bad. Which it is. That's not even a question in this. But we will also not let any defense of that person because someone has labeled racism. Or we need to buy this book or else they win. It's the same thing that got jawbreakers to air quote break the internet. Was that literally the us versus them mindset is what's driving us all into our own corners, into our own factions. And while literally no one, absolutely no one, has gotten to the 47-minute mark on this, it is understandable why it'll never change. It's sad that it will never change. Because honestly, to break that cycle, all we need to do is not want the follows. I know how weird that sounds. Shit posters typically shitpost to, stir up shit, but trolls and them also want that recognition. The assholes going, oh, X-Men aren't political, have been taught that because it validates their ideas, not because people will say, yes, we agree, but they will turn around and have their ideas validated by the people who turn around and say, no. They're totally political, you stupid fucking muppet. And so what does that mean? How do we fix it? How do we change the world? We don't. As I said, most people will never want to leave that comfort zone. And I don't even mean the echo chamber comfort zone. I mean the comfort zone of not being normal. I mean the people who will turn around and go, you know what? That was weak bait. I'm not dealing with it. You have a good day. And then be done with it. Mute them, block them, whatever. But ultimately the point is that by utilizing two negatives do not outdo each other. Okay? You being at least civil to the person being a fucking cunt does reflect very nicely on you to people who, will just casually be scrolling through their timeline and see, wow, this person's a dick. Let's retort. And if you've got a big enough following, you don't even need to do that. 150 people will just jump in on one person. I know that Mars Girl gets a shit ton because, the I Stand with Vic crowd is really, really fucking cult-like when it comes to defending Vic. And of course, that is a different thing. And Alison Pregler is the same way when she gets attacked for the change of the channel thing. Despite the fact that I think the biggest shit stir on that one would be Cinematic Venom, solely because, my God, you can see where he rides the change the channel because it's the only thing that gets him views. And that's not a negative thing. I mean, if he truly feels that he needs to, weekly talk about this, that's great. Does it actually pan out? Well, no, but that's its own fucking thing. And I already know some people who are going to turn around and go, yeah, but you generally go after the people who, comment negatively with Mars Girl or Obscurus Lupa or Mary, Sapphic. Anyways, The point is that yes, I do, but I don't outright just go, you're a fuckwad. You won't know nothing. You ain't ever gonna be nothing. Typically, I will counter with a calm, standard, here's where you're wrong, or here's where this person's wrong, or I don't understand these people. Because ultimately, that is the biggest thing. Understanding, we don't want to understand the enemy. I know that sounds weird because first you have to think, okay, it's us versus them. The more we understand about the them, the less as a group we actually see the differences. What I mean is, I know I keep saying what I mean and everything like that because I'm going to get a shit ton of people going, well, you need to clarify this. How dare you attack us? The more we don't understand, the more it becomes just, oh, Comicsgate's about anti-feminism. Well, yes, there are clearly anti-feminists in there. However, does that mean that the concept is wrong? No. I mean, Antifa is a bullshit movement and a bullshit group, but being anti-fascist is not bad. The core idea is very solid. The execution of that idea into a fascist mob is terrible. And then, of course, we're going to get those people on our are against us. But because it becomes more marketable, more positive to the individual, you get more attention. I'm trying to figure out what the hell's the Twitter version of umami. You feel like you get a gold star when you get followers or subs or anything like that. And the more you ride one side or the other, the more extremist you are, you will, I don't want to say extremist, but you understand what I mean. The more on one side you are, the more that side will gravitate towards you while you bounce the other side away. And that is actually another answer to a question that several people ask me, and they keep asking every time I make a video, is how come I don't get more subscribers? It's because I'll do videos like this where I literally tell everyone they're fucking stupid and we all need to actually stop and be positive. And I don't mean that in like, hey, this asshole just threatened my kids or brought up my dad. No. Being positive on that is just stupid. You block them, you rant, you have a bit of a moment, you can. But being positive means, hey, you like this book? Share it. Hey, House of X fucking changed your world. Share about it. The negativity we let ourselves have reflects back on us. And more, marketing is shifting to polarize people solely on the grounds that it is easier to market to people when they're in groups. And when we as a group turn around and say, no, this shit needs to change. We need to treat comics like their movies, like their literature. Because what would be the point of people really getting to read Mouse if no one cares about it anymore? Because honestly, I haven't actually heard it brought up in any videos in a long time, including top 10 lists lately. Because you have people in their 20s who just came into comics or aren't even interested in comics writing about comics. Because Mouse isn't a major motion picture, because Mouse doesn't have a sequel coming out, because Art Spiegelman isn't trying to get another book out. Be weird. Nah, I would. He's still alive, I believe. Yeah, if I recall, he was born in the 40s, and I haven't heard that he died. I don't think Art Spiegelman... Don't quote me on this. Art Spiegelman may or may not be putting out a new book. He's not. But Mouse won a Pulitzer. And yet we still treat fucking comics like they're dime store rags. Like that it doesn't matter. And they do matter. It all matters. So the fact that we go, oh, this matters, but this doesn't, undermines every comic. The fact that we need to be able to turn around and go, here is what was good with this book, here's what's bad. Rather than wanting to go, here's the positive on why this was a great read, without talking about any of the negatives. Because all these positives, because on a marketing level, all these positives, all these, here's why you need to buy this book because they don't want you to, here's why all this marketing is bad. We stop caring about context, content, and quality. It becomes about, hey, I just got your $5, I'm done, I don't give a fuck if you read another thing. And that is how you have poor, market management. It's how you have poor editorial. It's how you can have such negativity. Because when the company that is trying to sell you, when the creator that's trying to sell you something can't go, here is why it's good, here is why it's good on its own, then it's not a substantial read. And I don't mean that everything needs to be a substantial read. Not everything needs to be Mouse or The Dark Knight or Injustice. But not everything needs to be Green Lantern, Green Arrow, Lois Lane number 107, Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane number 107, 106. Not everything needs to be fucking Simon Baz when he was first introduced. I'm not sure if a lot of people still remember that. The New 52 was weird. Anyways, the point is that this whole thing is about the fact that the comic community is in a civil war right now, and no side will ever turn around and say, hey, maybe I overreacted a little. Hey, maybe we aren't so different, you and I. Maybe we could have been friends in another life. Or on this topic. We need to fucking have a meeting at Appomattox. We need to basically have an Arab Spring for comics. Okay, Arab Spring is a bit of an extremist view, and I'm 90% sure no one on Twitter remembers what that is anymore. So, being almost an hour long rant, and I hope that this rant does something. I know there's a lot of spaces. I know that I catch my breath a lot. You can hear my chair squeaking and everything like that. But honestly, if the only thing you take away from 1 hour of listening to this is the fact that maybe we all just need to be a little bit more positive, a little bit less confrontational. Because not very rarely does a confrontation lead to positive outcomes when it comes on a personal level. Confrontations can work. Confrontations can save lives. Confrontations can be amazing things. But not if you want people to change. A confrontation is about strong-arming someone. And let's face it, there is no substance right now. You want to strong-arm if you feel that maybe I'm totally wrong on everything and that you need to be confrontational towards everyone who says negative about something that you're positive with, then make sure the thing that you are protecting, that you're defending, is substantial enough. That isn't just a hollow husk. That is truly something worth defending. Because that is what comics should be. Comics should be defendable on all counts. Hey, Squirrel Girl is just fucking dumb fun. You're right, it is. And I enjoy that. I don't care if you do, or I'm sorry that you don't. But taking enjoyment away from someone else is not a good thing. Or, hey, this book stars a black guy. Okay, how is it? It's mediocre. The end. Quality, content, context. That is what makes comic books matter. Not the creator, barring some specific things, but at this point, it's actually really hard to get a very first and very special creator outside of indie books like, Superman's not Jewish, but I am. Kind of. or other stuff like that. But we don't talk about the indie scene when it comes to comics. We talk about the companies that make it big. We talk about Marvel because Marvel has because the Mousefest destiny, as I call it, because Disney wants to own laterally and horizontally. Uh, vertical. Not. Anyways, the point is, the only thing you take away from this is be a better you, be a better nerd. Then please do. Because honestly, there is not going to be any positives left if we continue down the path we are on. And now that I have 4 subscribers and and now that I'm being flamed by literally everyone who disagrees with me, please leave your comment below. If you, for whatever reason, would like to email to flame me, my email is thecomicarchivist@gmail.com. And of course, my Twitter is @BradleyNephilim. All that is in the description below. Yeah. Take care.